There may be times in your course when you'd like to use a PDF from an academic journal or from some other online source that's already created for you, PDF of a journal article, some, material that you want to use in your course. So this is an example of a PDF downloaded from a database. And what you do with this particular kind of document is you still want to make sure that it's accessible to your students. So if I were to upload this directly into Canvas, it may give me the red accessibility icon next to it showing that it's not accessible. So we would assume that a PDF coming from a journal starts out as accessible, but that's not necessarily the case. One quick way to check accessibility for a document like this is to hover over some text and just make sure that you can highlight some text that'll show that at least this has been tagged and the text has been recognized in the PDF. So the PDF is just an image, and what the Adobe Acrobat is going to do is going to try to read the text in the image so I can copy and paste this text into a Notepad document or into a Word document, and that shows that it's at least been processed minimally. So most students should be able to use this document. So that's the one thing that you don't necessarily have to be concerned too much about, the accessibility, because at least people can read this. At the same time, you do want to check a couple of things just to make sure that they're there, because these are really quick things that you can do that will cause it to be flagged as less accessible in Canvas. So if I go to properties when I have this document open, sometimes the title and the author and the subject lines and the keywords will be blank. So if that's the case when you upload your document to Canvas, then it will flag it immediately as being really low on the accessibility ratings. And all you have to do is go in and fill in these boxes. So that's a really quick check to do that. If you also go to advanced, sometimes the reading language hasn't been identified. So you would just want to make sure that that says English. And in most cases there, when you save that PDF, it will probably be more accessible according to Canvas than when you originally uploaded it. So that's one option to keep in mind. If you're looking to do a more thorough accessibility check, or if you want to make sure that you're ticking all the boxes you could possibly think of, what you want to do is you want to go to Tools. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the view, it should say Action Wizard under Customize. Now I've got a list on the right side of the screen, and one of those says Make Accessible. All this is going to do is lead me through a process of actually inputting all of that information directly, and it's going to make sure that all the text is selectable, all those things. So let's start this process together. If I hit Start, we've got a title there, we've got a subject, we've got an author, the keywords is blank. I'm okay with that. I'm going to leave all as is because all of that info is there already. The document language is selected. That's good. The downsample just keep at 600 dpi. That means it's really high quality. If I lower that, it's going to get harder to read the images. And it just says searchable image. That's all you're looking to do. So right now, it's checking to make sure that the image is, able to be read. So it's actually checking the text there. Is this document intended to be used as a fillable form? In most cases, it's a no, because you're not asking your students to input their name or input their address or something like that. So we're going to skip this step. We're making sure that it's English, yes. And then now it's going to run through and check all those things. Now it's going to look for figures in the document. So this is a good example of where the accessibility stuff can sometimes be weird, is that it's saying that there's an image here. There's a blue line highlighted on the left. That's not actually the case. So I'm just going to hit decorative figure because it isn't really important to meaning. And you can see these blue lines showing up. They don't necessarily need to be there. There's no image there that we can see. I can't see any image there. And so going through these and clicking these is just going to tell the screen reader that there's nothing vitally important here that we need to know. Sometimes it'll highlight an artifact from a scan, or the outline of a shadow or something like that in the corner of the screen. So that's why we're just putting decorative figure for all of these, because there are no images that I can see as I'm going through. The acknowledgements, if I wanted to go through and type this in, I could type that into the alternate text and save that. I'm not going to do that for this demo. And these characters from other languages, so it appears to be Chinese, you would probably want to put that character into the document, just because it's probably important for the meaning, especially if somebody's using this for a works cited or something like that. So once you've completed all of that, save and close. Now it's going to do the full accessibility checker, and this is where things get a little more technical than you might want. But once it does this accessibility checker, it's going to tell you there's a couple of issues with logical reading order, so it needs a manual check. What that means is that when you look at this document, there's a couple of moments where the reader might not be sure, do they start in the right corner or do they start in the left, or do they, read this part and then read that part? So you can do a manual check for that, and you can pass it because it's a manual check and you're like, well, it looks pretty good. So no problems there. If I go to tagged annotations and I click on the actual problem that it's identifying, honestly, I can't really see other than it's the NBA 2K18. I can delete that link, or I can skip the rule there, and it just tells you that there's nothing problematic there. The figures alternate text. So figure 1, I would probably want to include the alternate text in the acknowledgements and in these Chinese characters. That's all it's telling me. When I click on headings and appropriate nesting, when I click element 1, I can try to fix that and tell it what this document is actually trying to do, or I can skip rule. When you click explain, it runs you to a way of sort of checking for the headings and making sure the nesting is there. This will tell you explicitly what to do. This is where things often get a little more complicated. So when we do Adobe PDFs and we sort of run through these accessibility checkers, it's great because it can catch a lot of things, and we save that file, and hopefully that's a much more accessible document than it was when we started.